welcome to the Howling Hour podcast. I'm your host, Chris Staten. You can find me on Twitter at pilgrim_NE, and you can find the show on Twitter and Instagram at the Howling Hour _. And now you can also find us on YouTube by searching us up on YouTube. Every week's episode will be posted on there the week after they initially air, on wherever you are listening to this podcast. Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, what have you. And today I am bringing back Rob Ellis.
I've returned.
He's here. We will be talking about the 1977 Italian supernatural horror film Suspiria, directed by Dario Argento, and starring Jessica Harper, Stefania Cassini, Flavia Bucci, Miguel Bosé, Barbara Magnolfi, Susanna Giavicoli, Eva Axon, Alda Valli, and Joan Bennett. And yeah, this is the first Argento film we've done on the podcast. First Giallo in general as well. Dario Argento really being the main director that comes to mind when you think Giallo, when you think Italian horror. His name's always right there. I love Argento films, and I really enjoy Suspiria. This was actually only the second time I've seen this movie. The first time must have been in college. Probably or maybe right after I graduated college. I always heard it be thrown around. People would talk, people that I knew that also liked watching movies, would talk about Suspiria and how kind of impactful of a film it was, how stylish, and then so I eventually got around to doing it. Wasn't really in any rush, and I honestly don't even remember. I must have liked it the first time I watched it, and then when I watched it the second time, I loved it. Have since seen a fair number of Argento's other films. My favorite movies from him are Deep Red and Phenomena. Actually, Phenomena was being shown at a theater near me a week ago.
Oh, man.
It was a midnight screening at the Coolidge Corner Theater in Brookline. Definitely check that out. They do lots of good, cool showings. This month for them was Giallo January. So there's a bunch of those.
Nice.
But yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed it this time around, and now looking back at it, since doing the podcast, there was a lot more that I absorbed, and it was very good. So, what are your first impressions?
Just right off the bat, I just really liked the movie as a whole. Like you said, it's super stylish. The cinematography is just nutter butters. It's insane. Super cool. The colors in the movie, I'll get into it later. But
Yep.
yeah, it was awesome. It struck me right away, and it did not let me go.
No, it definitely has that power to it. And so when I was looking into tidbits about the movie. This movie was initially going to be about children. The children were going to be all the characters that we see, all the main characters, the girls in the school, supposed to be children.
Crazy.
But the people that were going to be in charge of proving that, the studio, and also Dario Argento's father, said no.
Oh man.
His father was a producer on the film.
Okay, I was how is that relevant?
Yeah, because they were just nothing violent, involving children can be shown on screen. So he bumped up the ages to these college-aged girls, but he didn't change anything in the script. So that's why we kind of have these kind of childlike characters, if you think about it. They all have this kind of naivete about them, and the way they act is it's not very adult-like. Even when
It's
you're thinking
not.
about just like college-aged people in movies in the '70s in general, you're not seeing this kind of it's almost like timid behavior as well
Hmm.
frequently. Um, I think about all the characters kind of cow down to the adults all the time. Like
Yeah.
there's very little of anything, and like the shouting match that Olga and Sarah get into, and they stick their tongues out at each
Yeah.
other. Like,
That's
that's childish, right?
that's what immediately came to mind. As soon as you said they didn't change the script, I was like, no shit, that makes sense.
Yeah. um, this also is one of the movies where Argento collaborated with the band Goblin, the prog rock band. They worked with him on. Hold on, I'm pulling up the movies right now. He did, yeah. So not all of these are Argento films, but he did Dawn of the Dead, Tenebrae, which is an Argento film, uh, Phenomena, another Argento film. Um, this movie, obviously, and I want to say did they not do Deep Red? Am I crazy? Yeah, they did. They did Profondo Rosso, Deep Red. Um, they did the soundtrack on that, and their sound is really what I think keeps this movie so gripping. Like,
Yeah.
because I feel like sometimes there's not a whole lot going on in the story, but
Hmm.
like the sound, the score, and the soundtrack, the atmosphere that's generated is just you can't look away.
Right. And it meshes like flawlessly with the visuals too, I would say.
Yeah, it's very because that's very much like the prog rock sound. Like
Right.
it's very very heavy and distorted at times, and it's ethereal to some extent,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
with like the all these very deep, vibrant colors that are changing from scene to scene. Your blues, your greens, and most notably your reds.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, the two come together in a very appealing way. Uh, before I talk about this movie much more, I'm going to hop in and go over the plot.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So, Suzy Bannion, a young American ballet student, arrives in Freiburg, Baden-Württemberg, Germany, during a torrential downpour to study at the co-ed Tanz Dance Academy, a prestigious German dance school. She sees another student, Pat Hingle, flee the school in terror. Suzy is refused entry to the school and forced to stay in town overnight. Pat takes refuge at a friend's apartment and tells her that something sinister happened at the school. Pat is ambushed by a shadowy figure who stabs her repeatedly and drags her to the roof of the apartment building before hanging her with a noose by throwing her through the building skylight. Pat's friend is also killed after being impaled by falling debris while trying to alert other tenants to the murder. Suzy returns to the school the next morning, where she meets Miss Tanner, the head instructor, and Madame Blanc, the deputy head mistress. Tanner introduces Suzy to Pavlos, one of the school's servants. She also meets classmates Sarah and Olga, her new roommate. Suzy experiences an unsettling encounter with one of the school's matrons and Blank's nephew, Albert, before passing out during a dance class. When she regains consciousness, Suzy learns that Olga has thrown her out of her apartment, forcing her to live at the school with Sarah in the room next door. While the students are preparing for supper one night, maggots rain down from the ceilings of their rooms due to a shipment of spoiled food in the attic, forcing them to sleep in one of the dance studios. During the night, a woman enters the room but is obscured by a curtain hung around the room's perimeter. Sarah, frightened by her hoarse and labored breathing, recognizes her as the school's head mistress, who is supposedly out of town. The school's blind pianist, Daniel, is abruptly fired by Miss Tanner when his German Shepherd bites Albert. Daniel is stalked by an unseen force while walking through a plaza that night. His dog turns on him and viciously rips his throat out. Sarah tells Suzy that she was the one on the intercom who refused her entry the night that Pat was murdered. She reveals that Pat was behaving strangely before her death and promises to show Suzy the notes that she left behind. Sarah finds that Pat's notes are missing and is forced to flee when an unseen assailant enters the room. They pursue her through the school before cornering her in the attic. She escapes through a small window before falling into a pit of razor wire, entangling her and allowing her pursuer to kill her by slashing her throat. Suzy investigates Sarah's disappearance the next morning. Tanner tells her that Sarah had fled the school. Suspicious, Suzy contacts Sarah's friend and former psychiatrist, Frank Mandel. He reveals that the school was established by a Greek emigre, Helena Marcos, who is allegedly a witch. Suzy also consults with Professor Milius, a professor of the occult. He reveals that a coven of witches perishes without their leader, from whom they draw power. When Suzy returns to the school, she finds that everyone has left to attend the Ballet. After being attacked by a bat and recalling a conversation with Sarah about footsteps, she follows the sound of them carefully, leading her to Madame Blanc's office. Remembering that Pat uttered the words secret and iris the night she was killed, Suzy discovers a hidden door that opens by turning a blue iris in a mural in Blanc's office. Suzy enters the corridor and finds the Academy's instructors, led by Madame Blanc, plotting her demise in the form of a human sacrifice. Albert alerts Pavlos to Suzy's presence. Suzy hides in an alcove, where she finds Sarah's disfigured corpse. Pursued by Pavlos, Suzy retreats to Helena Marcos's bedroom. Suzy finds Marcos sleeping, recognizing her as the headmistress by her labored breathing. She accidentally wakes her by breaking a decorative peacock with crystal plumage. Marcos renders herself invisible and taunts Suzy before reanimating Sarah's mutilated corpse to murder her. When flashes of lightning inadvertently reveal Marcos' silhouette, Suzy impales her through the neck with one of the peacock's broken glass quills. Marcos' death causes Sarah's corpse to vanish. Suzy flees as the school starts to implode. Madame Blanc, Miss Turner, Pavlos, and the rest of the coven perish without the power of Marcos to sustain them. Suzy escapes into the rainy night as the school is consumed by fire. Then the end.
What a freaking ride!
Yeah, it goes places, right?
It really does.
Not all of them really going anywhere. I feel like at times.
Yeah.
Obviously you have Daniel the blind. Daniel's the one with the dog. Who ends up getting attacked by the dog and is killed by the dog. But it's like his whole thing. Who cares?
Yeah, kind of.
He's just there. He's entirely there just to get killed. This had nothing to do with the main story. Like, no. He had no connection to Suzy or anybody. I do like, though, it has come out, in the intervening years, that Olga, her character, was basically was a witch in training.
Oh, okay.
So watching through this movie, because I looked into like a lot of the trivia stuff before watching the movie, and when I had read that, and then I watched it the second time, and it made a lot more sense. Especially we never really get to see a reason in the film as to why Olga kicked Suzy out of her apartment.
Right.
She just figured, there's some flimsy excuse given in the movie, I think, but it's not.
It was pretty fast and
loose, it's suspicious, it's a suspicious thing. So there's,
and they just don't do anything with it. Yeah, that makes sense though.
Yeah, and the star of this film, Jessica Harper, who plays Suzy, she chose to star in this movie over being in Annie Hall.
Oh.
So she turned down a part. I don't know what part it was. I don't know if it was the one of the female lead of Annie Hall, but I think she made the right option. I mean, Annie Hall obviously is a widely celebrated movie. I'm kind of indifferent to it, but
she really crushed it here, though.
I think Suspiria has aged better than Annie Hall.
Right.
So
tactfully
definitely
said.
made the right choice here. Bizarre thing about this movie, it's an Italian film. we've got some Americans cast into the film, and the movie itself was basically recorded with no sound. Everything's dubbed in.
Wild.
So
I don't think I noticed that.
you didn't notice the dubbing, dude?
I don't
It's
think so.
it's
Maybe
terrible.
maybe it
It's
was just
terrible.
I would say my resolution wasn't stellar, but
Mm,
maybe that's why. Because
that could be why.
and nothing sticks out in
God,
my
then what did
mind.
you
Was
think
it
of the
really that bad?
dialogue? Well, yeah. What did you think of this? Listening to the dialogue of this movie is at
It did
times,
feel it felt stilted for sure. I will say that.
yeah, um,
That's really funny.
yeah. It is. That's one of like the major criticisms of the movie is like kind of like how
Mhm.
bad the dubbing was, and
Yeah.
it's a shame because like the only reason the Americans were cast in this movie in the first place is because they wanted to market it better. They wanted to market it to a Western audience.
Oh.
Um, and you take away, you know, part of that value to them. I think Argento himself even said, Jessica Harper, he liked her voice. He said it was like
Mhm.
one of the reasons why he hired her for the position or hired
Yeah.
her for the role.
Yeah. And
And then we're left with like a pretty rough dubbing. It is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a theme. It's something you just get used to a lot with like watching all these Giallo films with the English dubs. It's like watching anime, and you come across an anime that has horrific dubbing.
right. Yeah. Should we have watched the subbed version?
Uh, I don't know.
I'm not a dub snob, so I think we're good.
Yeah, because I remember
Um,
like watching like Deep Red, and like the dub of Deep Red was like pretty rough too.
Yeah.
But I think I had seen it in Italian just subbed, and it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say I had at some point. Um,
Before we go too far off in any direction, I do have to say that Miss Tanner is strikingly similar to a woman who owns like a dance school near me, who occasionally calls me in to play like adult parts in the shows she does, and it's it was insane to watch this movie in that frame of reference because she looked very similar to her, and she has that same demeanor of like everyone is just like completely terrified of her when anything is happening like performatively, like they just shit themselves.
yeah,
So watching this movie in that context was really funny.
it's such like a trope of a character, right? Yeah, like
It
this
really
real
is.
tough as nails instructor. But that's because people like that out there really do exist.
It's real. It's real. She loved me. I don't know why. I couldn't dance. It feels like that would be the one thing she wanted, but I, I'll take it.
Uh, so actually, because this movie was dubbed and recorded without sound, you had a bunch of actors really here that were speaking different languages. So you had people speaking Italian, English, and German. So that professor that she ends up talking to about witches. So that scene, Jessica Harper had no idea. Rudolf Schundler was his
Yeah.
name. He just spoke in German, and she didn't understand German. She just knew her lines. So
That's nuts.
So off camera, he was like tapping her foot when his lines would end, so that way she could do hers.
That's insane.
It was. She said so. Jessica Harper, like
Yeah.
would go on. She would go on to say that it was kind of hard to keep a straight face and like concentrate on getting those scenes right.
I bet.
So,
Yeah, that's conceptually really funny. It would be tough to be there.
and it's funny because like, that's like one way you get around like having people with speaking different languages on one film set. You just don't
Right.
use any of the sounds. You just dub over it.
You just throw all of it out.
Everyone's just people speaking 10 different languages, and then you just dub it all over in one, and you call it a day.
No one loses.
No, absolutely no way. So yeah, you were talking about earlier the colors of this film,
Oh yeah.
the usage of color. You want to elaborate?
I just I'm a really big fan of like bright flashy colors, especially when they coincide well with the action happening. There's a lot of really tense scenes with like bright like light blue facing like red silhouetted lights, stuff like that. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. And like the greens in the later part of the movie are also super well done. Um, I just think they had a lot of really good color choices.
Yeah, 100%. It's like at moments of high tension within the story would coincide with the swell in the music and like these flashes of color, this
Yep.
deep intense color. Um, and it was something that was you were not seeing that at the time.
No, you
Um,
really don't.
Color like that had kind of faded out from filmmaking, as like the kind of the old Technicolor cameras were out of usage.
Hmm.
They did end up using like I think some of the film, some part of like the process was used in this film to
Yeah.
make the colors what they were. But a lot of people say that like oh they filmed it on like those cameras that they were filming back in like the 50s and whatnot, but they weren't. They were not.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy then.
But so yeah, so they
They really
still
pop.
like yeah still found a way to get that color out. And like I said before, I think it does a great deal of making the movie feel very tense because I see so many horror movies, so many suspense movies, thrillers, whatever. Um, I don't really feel the emotion too much. I can tell when something is
Yeah.
good. Something is a powerful scene. There were a couple times in this movie I was actually like very nervous, very on
Yeah,
edge.
me too. I
Um,
felt stuff.
like in when the girls are all downstairs, they're in the sleeping in the studio room, and the headmistress is behind this curtain, and she's like this just agonized wheezing's going on, and like
Right.
the music's like is just going. It's like going between, that breathing and then Susie's face, and I'm just like, oh my god, like
It's intense
it's
in a
very
way that
intense.
very few movies of that time really were.
Yeah,
It's
it's
crazy.
what Giallo's what the Giallo film would do is
Hmm.
really seeking um, to make those feelings. But even then, I mean, and this is really before. This is kind of outside of any of uh, his other works,
Hmm.
because it's not really like a crime. Um, Giallo films
Yeah.
oftentimes it's almost basically a crime thriller.
Hmm.
I mean, here a crime has occurred.
It.
There is a secret to
Yeah.
be unearthed.
They did bad
Um,
things.
yeah, there's not like there's a mystery to uncover here,
Right.
but it's a little outside like because you like Deep Red, it's, very much kind of an investigative uh, story of like uncovering clues and exploring, interviewing people, things of that nature.
Hmm.
Um, so this is different, but I still call it a Giallo. I've been calling it a Giallo since the beginning of this episode.
It's got to be right.
I don't know. I'm like the more I say it, the more I feel like it's not considered that but it's like Argento. So it's what uh, I immediately go there with my brain.
Right.
But anyway, uh, this movie has also, and I think it coincides well with these high moments of tension. All the kills that we
Yep.
see in the movie are all done very well.
Oh yeah. Totally.
They're all like like fucking make your skin crawl
Yeah. They were
kind of
hard to
deaths.
watch.
Uh, and the movie starts right off with that, and I think that's another endearing quality to the film is that we open up with, this girl's freaking out, something bad's gonna happen, and then like fucking gets like ripped, through glass and is hung, and then her other friend is freaking out and is impaled by this falling glass, and uh, but like the woman with Pat,
Yeah.
like hanging there like through the skylight, it's like so fucking
It's
like
nuts.
it's so jarring of a kill like that early in a movie. Um,
Right. It
and
comes
later
in
on,
so hot.
and then later on with like Sarah, and she jumps into razor wire.
I almost couldn't watch that.
Like, and it didn't really look,
No, but you
like
think
too much
about
like
it.
razor wire, but yeah, it was just like, oh my god, like yeah,
Yeah.
still you feel it, like that's how.
Eh.
So, and then she gets her throat slit, right?
Right.
And then I mean Daniels I kind of found funny
Yeah.
that with a dog ripping his throat out, because then it has like a dog standing over like some meat. And
Yeah,
the
it
dog's
was a
just
little.
like pulling up on some like sinewy meat.
It was definitely done a little funny. I was gonna say it earlier. It definitely feels like his whole like subplot and that kill and everything was just like, what if we had like a service dog kill his guy? It kind of felt like that. But I mean, it was well done, I guess. So okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Eh, it is what it is. Uh, I found the Helena Marcos character. I found her to be actually terrifying when we finally do
Yeah.
see her.
It's a really good build up, and it becomes worth it when you see her.
Like that like this is gonna be some like fucked up like devil looking woman, and she just looks like just death and decay personified.
Decrepit.
Like, oh my god! And then when she does get killed, and like the that quill goes through her throat, like it's such like a chunky puncture.
Yeah, it is. Just
It's
the pierce
ugh.
and then the straight through.
Ugh. And then of course we get this big climactic ending where the the building fucking explodes.
That was awesome. I loved that.
The movie itself really it stems from so Daria Nicolodi, who is Dario Argento's girlfriend at the time. This movie was inspired by stories from her grandmother,
What the hell?
who had claimed that she had fled from a German music academy because she had found out that there was like secretly witchy stuff going on.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I would not categorize this under ones I'd expect to be even
Grounded
tangentially
in any
based on
kind
a
of
true
reality?
story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Insane.
Yeah, to what degree that is actually true, who can say?
The fact that it's even a fraction of a percent possible is insane to me.
The witches in this movie, or just like the entire premise of these witches in this building, like does throw me a bit. I find like parts of the story like really hard to parse.
Yeah.
Like to really understand, like, okay, but why?
Right.
So why are we doing this?
There were definitely some parts that just happened.
Like I just didn't really get why they had the one Mark. Was his name Mark? Was the one that was
the
into
main
Suzy?
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably. It sounds right, but I know
It
who
sounds-
you mean.
Yeah. It's so I just don't get why his character's in the movie. He doesn't really do anything. I don't really understand what any of the witches want. They're all there and they stick around in the school and do like ritual stuff at night. But like, what is your aim? What's your end game here? Like, you have Helena Marcos, who's like the leader of you all. She's like can't even move, like absolutely decrepit in this bed. What's going? I didn't really get. I don't know. That stuff never really
I kind of felt like
made sense.
I personally had missed something. By the end of it, I came to the conclusion that maybe it was like their rituals are sustaining her, and
Mm.
like that's the whole point of it. But
And by
it's
association, them.
right, yeah, like a cyclical kind of thing. But it's not very clear at all what witchery they're actually up to, like to what end.
Yeah, like I just don't get why. Like, so obviously there's like witchcraft and stuff going on in the building, but like,
Right,
so why was it their fault for the maggots falling from the ceiling?
right, yeah. I
Like,
think that
which
just
then forced
happened
everyone to go into a big room together, but then
to
it
no
really only,
effect.
yeah, to no effect. Like nothing happened. All that happened is
Right,
like the main character of this
it wasn't
movie.
like a
Like,
mass sacrifice.
yeah, I
Uh,
just didn't
can
really get it.
can I share with you a really big, bolded uppercase note I have written?
Yeah.
It says LMAO maggot synth drop.
Was it really?
Yeah, I love that part because she's like, "Oh, there's maggots in my stuff. That's gross." And she looks up and it's just like, "Bwah!"
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that was an
Uh,
insane moment. I was genuinely frightened.
Yeah, when the maggots are falling on like the girls, it's actually rice.
No kidding.
So don't
Huh.
worry.
It
No one
didn't
was.
matter because maggots are really one of the grossest things to me. Ugh.
Yeah, when she pulled one out of her hair and like started
Yeah,
freaking out. Like I was like, that's another. It's like another one of those moments where like I just kind of like curling on
it's like
myself. I'm like, ugh.
cerebral. Yeah, I physically cringed at this movie more than I think any we've done so far.
Yeah, there's like a lot of like weird things that they show, and they're like not afraid to, you know, show it.
Right.
Really, they're like, you want to see something fucked up real quick? Here you go.
They like commit to it. Yeah.
Like even so, you know, Sarah dies. Sarah's dead. Like
Yeah.
another, this is another question. Like, why did they have Sarah's body? Like they had like kind of crucified her,
Yeah. They
post mortem crucified her.
put pins in her eyes and shit.
Put like in that too, which was super fucked.
Yeah.
And it just slowly goes over her body, and I'm just like, okay, so this is like traumatic for Suzy, but again, why are we doing this? What's going on here?
Yeah.
But like it was like a they did the makeup team, the effects team there, really good job because again, that was very fucked up.
Yeah. It was really great. I would say, for the most part, other than the headmistress, there were no like super like ambitious like effects or anything, but all of them were just like super super well executed.
Yeah, I so there was a scene where you actually do get to see people trying to do ballet. You know what?
Yeah.
What I imagine is a novice's understanding of ballet. There's one of
Yeah.
the first class. Everyone's there, and I I'm glad that was basically the only scene we ever saw of people trying to do ballet. It was comically bad.
It was a little funny to watch.
Um, I I did like the angle. I did see it immediately, and I think it's because it's been used so many times in media since. But like the doctor prescribes to Jessica Harper, Susie, prescribes to
Yeah.
Susie to drink wine
Yeah, to thicken her
like
blood, I think.
to like thicken and strengthen her blood. Um, I don't really I don't really get why they kept drugging her every single night.
Yeah, they didn't
Like
really do anything with that.
because like Sarah, you know, who was much more onto their game than Susie was, and they actually really seemed to try to get Susie in, you know, as being kind of part of the in group in the school,
Right.
and so they're drugging her, not drugging Sarah, and really nothing came of it.
Yeah, she
You
was
know,
the way bigger threat.
eventually, Susie realized that she's being drugged, and very sloppily tries to pour it down the sink. That was the most viscous fucking wine I've ever seen in a movie. She like dumps it in the sink, and it gets fucking everywhere. And she literally
It
has to scrub
was
with her. She has to scrub it with her hands.
her bare like palms. Yeah,
And,
she's
and,
just
and
like
like it was
rubbing
it like
around.
wasn't coming off. I'm just like, What kind of wine is this? This is gonna be the
It
shittiest fucking wine.
looked awful. It looked like stage blood.
Yeah, seriously. And like there, like so right there, like anyone goes in there, like she didn't get it all off of the sink, so you can tell that she stopped taking the wine, and it's just like not a thing.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
it's really strange that they just don't go anywhere with that really. Like I get the point that they're fucking with her, but they don't. It's like yeah, to no end.
and the beginning of the movie as well, like I was very confused because maybe I like looked away and kind of forgot something that had happened. But like, so Susie sees Pat, come out of the school building in the middle of a storm. Right? This is
Yeah.
like it was like a terrible storm the night that she gets in, and I feel like she didn't hear Pat say anything. And then later on, she's like, "Oh, she said this. She said irises. She said secrets." And I'm just like, "You were like 100, like at least 50 feet away from this door in the middle of a torrential, like thundering storm,
Right,
and
clattering on the trees around you and shit.
like you saw her say say words. Don't tell me you knew what words she was saying."
Some words, but not all, but
Because she
some,
wasn't talking
clearly.
to you, as like you later deduced. She wasn't talking to you, or like you
Right.
later found out she was talking to someone else inside the building. So she definitely wasn't even facing your direction.
Right,
You did
projecting
not hear her
inwards.
speak.
Yeah.
I, that was
There
that
was
was just another thing. I'm just like, what?
definite disbelief to be suspended there. But
Yeah, and
no.
also what's Pavlos's character in this movie?
Yeah,
He's just like a beast to be kicked around and be made to do things.
yeah, I was waiting for them to do the he actually doesn't just speak Romanian thing, but it kind of didn't happen.
Yeah, yeah. Like one of the first things that's said about him is like he's very ugly. Don't be afraid to say so.
Right, he
It's
can't
just
understand you, and I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna do this
okay.
thing. Right,
Very
but
very odd.
no, it's just like that. It's very strange.
I did also find the firing of Daniel to be like very odd, like because it's Madame Blanc, right, that like comes in and
Yeah,
like absolutely loses her fucking mind. Because like it doesn't even seem like Albert, like the nephew or whoever, it had really got injured. Because we see him again and he looks fine.
yeah, he's not like incapacitated in any way.
And
I'm
like
sure it's
he's in on it. Like
right.
they're in on it, and there was some kind of evil force that made the dog bite Albert, but then they all got mad at Daniel for the dog doing that, and then they kicked Daniel out, and eventually the dog ripped his throat out. But it doesn't look like anything was done with his body. It was just found by the police.
Right. And it would. There's no way it's a different evil force both times. It
Right?
just can't be.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, his part of me is
Yeah.
just like, you think about the maggots, think about the dog biting Albert. It's like, is there another entity at play here? Because it seems to be like fucking with these witches.
I'm pretty sure off screen in that secret room behind the wall, I think they have a dartboard in there that they just throw darts
Yeah,
at.
like who dies next?
Right.
um, I just it's funny, and then like, and I'm listing these things, but like I really do genuinely enjoy the movie. It's more something to be watched, to be viewed, not so much to be
Yeah. On paper, like
deeply
written
engaged
out.
with.
Yeah, like on paper, I don't think this is a very good movie overall. Like written down, like if you read the script, you'd be like, "What?"
Yeah,
It's really to be watched.
yeah, I agree, 100%. Um, do you have any other thoughts or opinions you want to go into?
Yeah, there are a couple small things that I don't think we've gone over yet. I really like the interiors and like kind of the Art Deco theme they go with in a lot of
Mm,
the rooms. I just thought it kind of added to the stylishness of the movie because it's not something you see super often around that time period. Like it's supposed to be like an
right.
older kind of school.
Yeah, so it's made to be as fairy tale like as possible. This setting, so that's
Hmm.
why they went with this this building. It's not most of the movie was shot in Berlin. I want to say
Okay.
it was like in Germany.
Yeah.
Is where a lot of that's filmed. That build the exterior of that building is in Germany. So definitely with the, I think with the colors and the definitely the architecture of the building and then of these rooms. It's all just trying to evoke like this much older, um, folklore kind of atmosphere. Like there's something very ancient
Yeah.
and mystical that belongs within that space.
It definitely felt a little Hogwarty for sure. Um, Another really small detail that I did notice that I really liked was the movie starts out with Susie, kind of like trying to hail a taxi, like visibly distraught at being soaked in the
Yeah,
rain.
yeah.
Um, which fun little charming way to get to know the character. But at the end, she busts out of the house into the rain with like this huge grin when she realizes that she's like out of it for good. So I really like the way that they bookended it like that, with her being all pissed off at the rain, and that at the end she just doesn't even notice it.
Yeah, I did like that as well. It did like both nights coincide with these witches up to no good.
Right.
Um, yeah, it was very good paralleling of that. I did what I wrote. What did I write at the beginning? Yeah, could you give me a hand? She says, asking the taxi guy to help her with two small bags. No wonder he stayed in the car.
Yeah.
Um, but like, it was like absolutely pouring. She had like get in front of the car, and the guy's just like, "You're inconveniencing me."
Yeah,
And I'm like, "Oh yeah."
she had to like insurance fraud hail those taxis. Like she was just like jumping for them.
Um, Also, I had noticed that Pat's friend who's she's like screaming bloody murder for someone to come help,
Yeah.
and like really no one came out in the
Yeah.
time that you would think someone would. Like she was screaming absolutely bloody murder. I don't care how late it was. It was like 11, because that gets established later on when the police get involved or something like that. Um, so yeah, very weird.
Yeah, as established later, there definitely would be just people there. So, very weird. A lot of weird, a lot of weird choices.
A lot of weird choices. Um, and with that, I mean, I think I've gone through most of my thoughts. Uh,
Yeah, I feel good about it.
okay, so let's move into some closing thoughts and slap our ratings on this bad boy.
Let's do it.
You can start. I'll let you go.
Yeah, sure. So, I felt like overall, like we talked about a lot, I think the cinematography, the sound, the visuals all come together to make what really would only work as a movie, a film. Like this would not be a good book as written. Um, and as a story, it falls apart in some key aspects. But honestly, the the root plot of it all is still interesting. It's good. It held my attention the entire time. Um, the choices with music, absolutely stellar. The synth beats were just super cool. Um, like I said earlier, the color choices like tickled that graphic design part of my brain. Like very very intentionally placed and very well thought out scenes with those. The kills were freaking gruesome. There were a lot of scenes that like I physically cringed watching, uh, and it's impressive to see that. Um, so yeah, overall, I just like I said, on paper it doesn't work as well as it like seems like it works. Sorry, the other way around. It works way better than it seems like it would on paper. I would say overall, I'm gonna give this movie three howls. Yep, we're sticking with three howls.
All
Good movie.
right. Yeah, so I'm kind of in a similar boat. Uh, I love the soundtrack of this movie. The way this movie looks and sounds really matters more in the end, in the viewership for me than anything kind of below that, or what gets built on top of that, I should say. Um, I think Jessica Harper did a great job. I think the movie, for being involved with several actors that are from different countries speaking different languages, I think the movie ended up being made very well in that regard. Um, I It's not, like I said, it's not my favorite Argento film, but it is up there. There is a reason why this film would go on to get a remake in 2018, which I actually think it's pretty good. I recommend, if you haven't seen that, to go watch that. Um, and there's reasons why it's still talked about. It's stylish. It is so much of what you want from Italian horror, from 70s horror, and I am going to give Suspiria, 3 howls. 3 howls sounds good.
Yeah, felt good to me.
Yeah. So thank you, Rob, for coming back on the show.
As always, thanks for having me, dude.
With as long as there are no complications, next week we should be doing an episode on Grave Encounters. Gonna have Colby back on. That is a movie that is near and dear to my heart. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. Thank you all for listening. I truly do appreciate it. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have a good night.